Hi, welcome to Moments with Mama Jem. I'm Jemelene, your host, and I'm really glad to have you here today. So, I have a question for you. Have you ever had to experience moments of grief and joy, sadness, and good things at the same time? Here's my story. 2.5 weeks before I got married, my brother passed away suddenly. We knew on a Friday that he had been tested positive for leukemia. And on Saturday, my dad made arrangements for him to fly from Colorado to Southern California. There were arrangements made for him to go to one of the big medical centers there. And on Sunday, he came. And we were able to meet him at the airport. And that's the last time I saw him. I went back and actually my bridal shower was that day. The next day, he spent all day testing, and they had planned a surgery for the next day, but he didn't make it through the night. And my dad came into the room of where I was staying around 4 o'clock in the morning and kneeled down my bed and told me that my brother was gone. And one of the first things I said to him was, "We're going to have to postpone the wedding." Dad's immediate reaction was, "No, this wedding is happening." What I didn't know at that moment was when my dad dropped my brother off at the hospital, my brother said to him, "Whatever happens here, no matter what, that wedding needs to go on." And so we kept planning it. So in the middle of the space that we were going to use to do the last minute preparations, we also had to fly to Colorado for memorial service. We had a local memorial service. And we had to change a lot of things with the wedding. My mom had always made everybody's cakes. She did cakes for, she had already learned to do cakes when I was born. So all my life she had done cakes, but she had always done these wedding cakes for people, and they got to design their own. And my dream was to have her be able to design a wedding cake that we would enjoy designing together. And she lived 600 miles away. And so when she came down, the plan was on that Friday that they came down was to start using a friend's kitchen, getting the cakes baked. And we had already rented a stand from a local cake place. And by Monday morning, when my brother was in the hospital, she went over to the cake place and told him her situation, and they were very happy to do our cakes. And when I came home from work that afternoon, my mom asked me if that would be okay. And it was like, of course. I mean, you've got this going on. And of course, the next day when we woke up and he was gone, we were just very grateful that these folks had were willing to do the cake. It still was so much of what we wanted, but there was some grief in not being able to have her do the cake. So going through the whole process, of course, this is not what anybody wants. And when the coordinator stood up at the rehearsal, she said, "Something will go wrong at your wedding." And I looked at my now husband, and said, I don't think anything else could go that wrong. And it didn't. So we proceeded. I had noticed there was some family members that were acting pretty cold and indifferent. And I found out a few years later that they actually were really mad. They didn't think we should go through with it. They didn't think it was respectful, I guess. And when I questioned one of them several years later, I said, well, that's what Glenn wanted. And the response was, well, he wasn't there. And my response to that was, nobody knew that better than I did. Glenn was my baseball buddy. He's the one who got me to love the Dodgers and baseball in general. And so there was just so much of that made that day even harder. But today I was listening to a mom who lost her son, and she gave the best description of being able to hold grief and joy at the same time than I have ever heard. And I want to share it with you. And that is that it's like a braid. It's braided in. Yes, the day that I got married, I was severely grieving my brother. When the photographer said, okay, so we'll have mom and dad step out and then you and all your siblings will be in the picture. I froze, looked directly at my mom and whispered, they're not all here. She graciously talked to the photographer for a couple minutes and let me gather myself. And we went on and took pictures. So yes, the grief was still there, but there was also joy at the same time. And what I've learned over the years is that two things can be true at once. You can be grieving very deeply, and you can have so much joy. I was and am so in love with my husband, and I am glad we went through with it when we did. And I thought that was very honoring to honor my brother's wishes. I thought about it later, and it occurred to me that there were people critical of what had happened or the choice we made, but they never had to make that decision. So I just want to encourage you today that, you can have grief and joy at the same time. You're not dishonoring your family member by having joy at the same time. A few years after the wedding, we were gathered for my grandmother's memorial, and the cousins all said, okay, let's get a picture of all the cousins because we're all here. And I turned to one brother and said, no, we're not. But we smiled and took pictures and maybe even got a little bit goofy. But I want to encourage you that if you're going through a grief season right now, it's okay to have joy along with it. It's okay to embrace that joy. I'm really glad you're here. I'm hoping to be here more often. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed this moment.